Welcome to the WION podcast. In this episode, we explore how protests in Miami are amplifying calls for change in Cuba, revealing how a deepening crisis is pushing the island toward a potential turning point. A United for a Free Cuba rally was held at Bayfront Park in Miami on April 26th, drawing attention to the island's deepening crisis. The protest was driven by a call for the departure of the Communist Party from power in Cuba and the humanitarian crisis in the region. The protests saw participation from the Cuban diaspora in Miami and received support from political figures in the U.S. Senator Rick Scott, prominent Cuban-American leader Orlando Gutierrez Boronat, was also in attendance at the rally. Gutierrez Boronat, the executive secretary of the Cuban Resistance Assembly, or ARC, said, "We want real change. Real change means the departure of the Castro family and the Communist Party from power," reported CyberCuba. The protest coincided with the recent 65th anniversary of the Bay of Pigs invasion of 1961. The invasion was a failed military operation on the southwestern coast of Cuba by Cuban exiles who opposed Fidel Castro's Cuban Revolution. The invasion was funded by the U.S. government under President John F. Kennedy. The rally demands regime change in Cuba. The country's current government has been in power for 67 years, since 1959. It originated from the Cuban Revolution, a movement that overthrew the dictatorship of Fulgencio Batista, led by Fidel Castro. The country has operated as a one-party communist state since then. Beginning in January 2026, the U.S. implemented an intensified fuel blockade in Cuba, aimed at forcing regime change. Venezuela's oil shipments were Cuba's main source of energy, a supply that declined after the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Faced by a resulting energy crisis, Cuba's power grid collapsed multiple times in March, causing nationwide blackouts. The U.S. put Cuba under an embargo in an attempt to isolate Castro's government. It constitutes a set of economic sanctions restricting trade, commerce, and financial transactions between the two countries, widely considered the most enduring trade embargo in modern history. The sanctions have stunted Cuba's economy, which sees widespread shortages of essentials like food and medicine, one of many factors causing a massive exodus of Cubans to Florida. The Miami rally also called for the release of the political prisoners in Cuba, a continuous demand put forth by the U.S. as well. Releasing political prisoners has long been a core demand of the U.S. Havana announced the release of over 2,000 prisoners in early April, shortly after it announced the release of 51 prisoners in March. The crisis in Cuba comes amid a world occupied by the war in the Middle East. The post-Castro government has not been able to soften the effects of the economic embargo. The United Nations warned of a looming humanitarian crisis in Cuba, with the energy shortage paralyzing the island's hospitals and water distribution systems, severely impacting its inhabitants. The Cuban exiles, Cuban Americans in Florida, along with activists, are demanding change in Cuba. Thanks for tuning into this incredible story. If this episode resonated with you, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more captivating stories to come. Stay tuned.